I wanted to record this video today on how to land a sales job with no experience. I receive a lot of requests and feedback from salespeople, people that have finished senior school, graduated from university, and they're out there looking for a role and they're simply not getting a response. They're applying for multiple sales jobs online, submitting their resume, and they're not hearing back. And this is just a big problem. And if you're in this situation, well, the good news is you're not alone. It's happening to everybody out there. So if that's you, let's jump in and let me take you through the 6 ways that I've identified that will help improve your ability to be interviewed and of course land a role. So let's jump in. Hey guys, David James here, Sales DJ. Welcome back to my channel where I look to provide sales tips and business advice to empower salespeople to become more effective. So let's jump straight in. So the first step to landing a sales job with no experience is to plan and prepare. Now I know this probably sounds fairly straightforward, but you'd be amazed at how many people will simply jump in and apply for roles with very little planning and preparation. They may have a resume that they've drafted from years ago when they were in university or when they're at school applying for those retail jobs. And it's just not up to standard. It's not up to the standard that you need in this day and age to be successful. And also, you know, many people that were at university or at school just didn't see the need to be on LinkedIn as a social media platform. Of course, they're on Facebook, Instagram, all the popular social platforms. But unless you're in business or you're looking to build a career, LinkedIn just is not a platform that a lot of people subscribe to. So let's jump into the first point, and that is you need to create a LinkedIn profile. This is really important because when you're applying for roles, people will automatically look you up on LinkedIn, and they'll want to see your face, and they want to look through your experience. And if you're out there kind of writing content and building brand, then that obviously will work in your favor because it helps people to understand who you are and what you're about. So get on LinkedIn if you haven't already and build a profile. It's really, really important. I can't stress this enough. You need to obviously have a good photo. So look at a professional photo. And if you're not sure what a professional photo looks like, then jump in. I've got links below to my LinkedIn page. And you can have a look at my photo. Now that photo was taken by a professional photographer with a white background. So I'm not saying you need to go to that extent, but certainly have someone take a reasonably professional photo of you dressed in nice clothes, not a photo of you at the beach or you with your friends or what you typically put on Facebook. It needs to look professional. Because remember, this is your brand, this is the image that you're putting out there to the world. This is your prospective employer looking at you and kind of making an assessment or a judgment of who you are, just based on a photo. And it's incredible how many people do judge us based on our photos. And so then when you're building out your LinkedIn profile, start thinking about your experience. There's a section that talks about you and really put some thought into what you're about. If you don't have a lot of sales experience, then just think about the things that an employer may want to hear from you. And it's really important that when you're applying for a sales role, that your LinkedIn profile talks to sales. So for example, if you're writing a LinkedIn profile about yourself and you were to basically put in there that you're interested in engineering or you're interested in fashion, but you're applying for a sales role and you kind of LinkedIn profile talks about something that doesn't really relate to sales, well, people are going to look at that and kind of question are you the right fit for their business? So think about that. Obviously, put as much experience as you can in your LinkedIn profile. So any jobs that you've performed, and really think about talking those jobs up. Think about the experience that you had with those employers and how it would relate to sales. And really talk about any success or achievements or awards that you've won. This is really important. So the next part of LinkedIn is really about networking. And so you want to get in there and network with as many people as you can. So normally you'd start with connecting in with all of your friends, your mum and dad. I know it sounds cheesy. Most people don't want to be connected to their parents on social media, but on LinkedIn, that's definitely another step in building out your network. So friends, family, friends of friends, friends of the family, sports coach, the cafe owner down the road, anyone you can think of that that you've had a conversation with, you've met, even if you hardly know them, connect them in, and then start to build your network from there. I'd also encourage you to think about connecting in with people that are in a similar type of role that you're looking for. So if you're looking for a sales role, the natural thing to do is to start connecting with sales leaders and sales people. So if you have a particular company in mind or a particular industry, then that's where you need to focus and start building and connecting. And the great thing about LinkedIn is you can actually send a request to someone to connect and actually write a comment as to why you're reaching out to them. And it can be as simple as saying, I'm just looking to build my network. I'm looking for a role in sales. I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm looking to build my network. I'd appreciate the connection. And you will find 98% of people will accept your request. And from there, when you start to build out a network, as people post on LinkedIn, you'll start to see what the posts are about. You'll start to get a feel for what's important in a particular industry. So if I work in the software technology industry, and I have done for 25 years. I've worked for some of the biggest companies in the world, like Oracle, and I'm pretty much connected with most people in IT and technology. So when I look at my post feed, it's all about IT. But more importantly, what it's about at the moment is cybersecurity, IoT, cloud computing, anything related to all the big top companies, Microsoft, Cisco, Salesforce, Amazon Web Services. You're constantly seeing these feeds, and so you start to get a feel for what's important in that industry. And if you were to go for a role and someone was to ask you a question about what do you know about the industry, well, you could say that I know cybersecurity, I know IoT, I know cloud computing are all real important topics and focuses for business today. So that leads me to my next point, which is know what type of industry or type of company you want to work for. And this is another big issue that happens a lot with people looking for roles. They simply just apply for every sales role that they can see on LinkedIn or Glassdoor or whatever job seeking network website you're looking at. They think, well, the more resumes and the more job applications I put in, the bigger my chances are of getting a job. Well, it's just incorrect. All you're doing is you're just sending your resume out to a job with another 100 or another 1,000 odd people like yourself that no one's ever heard of, no one's ever met, and you just go into the melting pot of either never being responded to, or worse still, you may be lucky to get an interview and then get rejected. And the reason for this is that most companies will look to hire someone that is generally recommended, someone who is put forward by someone else in the company. So knowing what industry or what company you want to work for is really important, because you start to target you start to become more focused on the type of role you're looking for. And when you know what industry you want to work in, let's say it's technology, you start to research more about technology, start to learn about technology, start to find out what's important, find out what customers want, find out what employers are looking for, what skill sets are important. Start to ask yourself as many questions as you can about that industry and what they're looking for. And then start to build your experience, start to build your learning, your education, watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, vlogs, and really start to expand your knowledge in that particular industry. And then when you go for an interview, you'll be very knowledgeable on that industry. And when people ask you a question, your answer will give them the feeling that you really know what you're talking about. And that's really important, obviously when getting a job, because if you walk into an interview and someone asks you a question, why do you want to work for our company, or what do you like about this industry? And you're like, I don't know, I just want a sales job. I don't know a lot about it, and you're kind of really airy-fairy and vague. They're just going to simply look at you and think, this person's not serious, and you won't get the job. You'll just get rejected. Networking, point number two. So networking is super important. I can't stress it enough. You've gone through the planning and preparation phase of my video. If you've built out a LinkedIn profile and you've started to network and connect with people, then that's a great start. And certainly I would spend some time talking to people about what you're looking to do as a career. Speak to your mum, speak to your dad. I'm sure they've got jobs at the moment. And say to them, I really want to work in sales, I want to work in technology. If that's what you want to do, or you want to work in retail or fashion or manufacturing or logistics, whatever it is, speak to these people and say to them, I want a sales job in this particular industry. Do you know of anyone? And they might say, look, I don't know anyone who has that type of role in that particular industry, but I do know this person who are a salesperson or a sales leader. And that's a great start. And then they can then ask those people, hey, do you know anyone who's in sales or is a sales leader in this particular industry? And as people go through that process of asking, eventually they will find someone. And if they like you enough, if they think you're a good person, they think you're genuine, then they will say to that person that they're talking to, hey, I've got my friend over here. They're really looking for a job. They don't have a lot of experience, but they're super passionate. They're super motivated. This is their name. You can look them up on LinkedIn. Remember, having the LinkedIn profile is important. And if you've got time, they'd like to buy you a coffee or even just pick your brain over a phone call as to what they need to do to land a job. And so when this happens, most people want to help other people. And particularly if they know someone that they respect and like, the chances are they'll give this person like you a chance, and they'll sit down and talk to you. And so you take the time to firstly buy them a coffee or buy them lunch if you can afford it. It goes a long way. It shows the type of person that you are. But then when you turn up to these sorts of meetings, turn up prepared, have a list of questions. As I said before, when you choose the industry and you choose the type of company you want to work for, if you've done your research, if you've done your education, if you've watched your videos, when you meet these people and you have a conversation, you'll be able to ask the right questions. You might say, for example, if you want to work in the technology industry, what's it like? I'm really interested in cyber security. I see a lot of threat attacks happening out there in the world. It's really exciting. What's your impression of selling cybersecurity to business customers? And they might say, it's like this, and these are some of the challenges that we have, and customers are looking for this and they're not getting this. And if you've done your research, you'll be able to relate to this conversation. You'll say, yeah, that's interesting. I actually read an article about that in Forbes as an example. And so when you do this and you have this relatable conversation, it's at that point that these people think, wow, this person they really are interested in getting a sales job in this industry, and they've obviously done their homework. And so they will likely then start to put you forward to people they know. So they may say, they've got you in the top of their mind thinking, this person what a great meeting, what a super passionate young person they were. And then when they're talking to one of their friends who is a sales leader looking for a role, or someone they know who's a business owner, they'll say, actually, I've got someone in mind that might be good for that role that you're looking to hire. And so then that's how you then start to get jobs. So again, go look at all your contacts, write a list of everybody that you know, everyone you've spoken to. So it could be a sporting coach, it could be a school teacher, it could be your mum and dad, sister, auntie, uncle, cousin, brother. It could be a shop owner, someone in a retail store, your friends, your friends' family, their mum, their dad, their brother, their sister, and just speak to people and find out who they know, and then genuinely ask them for an introduction and say, look, I'm struggling to find a role. It's okay to say that you're struggling. As I said before, you're not alone. Thousands of people are struggling to find roles out there. So it's okay to be honest and say that you're struggling, and that you really love to get a job in this particular industry doing this type of role. And then let those people see that urgency and see that genuine motivation and passion, and then let them go out and find you people to talk to. So this is by far, in the 25 years that I've been in a selling career, I've only ever applied for one job. And that was when I was a young guy with no experience. And I applied in those days on a newspaper ad, or in these days it's a job seeker ad on the internet. And I went for an interview, and luckily I had some good networks, and I had some people that were willing to refer me and talk me up. But ever since then, every single job I've had has been through networks, through people I know. People have asked me, do I want to come and work for them? They've put me forward for roles in other companies. There could be leaders that I've worked for, in the past that have moved to another role, and then have asked me, do I want to come to that company and work with them? And so this is really the secret to landing a role. It's not only the secret to landing a role with no experience, but it's actually the secret to landing a role in your career for the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, however long your career ends up being. So definitely networking is my number one key. It's more important than sitting there looking through job seeker websites, trying to find the next role, reading the job description, thinking, how can I apply for this role on the internet and get it over the last role or the last 10 roles that I never heard back from or I got rejected for. You're spending all this time, wasting your time applying for these roles. In fact, I'd almost go to the point of saying, stop applying for roles online, because you're just wasting your time, right? Unless you know people in these companies, unless someone's putting you forward for the role, you're just wasting your time. So spend time looking, rewatch my videos several times, listen to what I'm saying, and if you and apply what I'm saying. And look, if you've got any questions, by all means email me, visit my website. I'm happy to help you out. Leave a comment below, and if you want any advice or tips and tricks on what to do, or what's working, or what's not working, then certainly let me know. Number 3, recruitment agencies. What's a recruitment agency? Well, basically these are companies that are paid a commission by a company to go and find, for example, a sales rep to fulfill a particular job description. When that recruitment agency places that person in a role, that company will pay them a commission. And so a recruitment agency need as many candidates on their books as possible to increase their chances of placing people in roles and getting paid commission. So you will find when you develop a LinkedIn profile that you will start to be contacted by recruitment agencies. Now, initially that may not be the case if you have limited experience, but certainly in my position with 25 years selling experience, I'm contacted by recruiters almost daily looking to interview me for particular roles. And most of the time I find myself rejecting those people and telling them that I'm not interested. I'm not a big fan of recruitment agencies. I think if you follow my steps around networking, you'll have far more success in obtaining a role. But if you have limited experience, you don't have a lot of networks, you don't know a lot of people, or you're just struggling, or those people that you do know don't actually know people in the particular industry that you're looking to work in, then definitely recruitment agencies are a good start. So the way to find the recruitment agencies that work in the particular industry that you're looking for, so let's say you want to work in the fashion industry, start going online, start looking at the jobs that have been posted in the fashion industry, and start to see if there's any recruiters that are actually advertising those roles. And if there are, then you need to contact those recruitment agencies and express your interest in being a candidate on their books. Now what they'll do, of course, is they'll interview you because, like I said before, they need as many candidates as possible. So they'll bring you in, they'll ask for your resume, they'll bring you in and they'll interview you. Now they'll either do this face-to-face or on the phone. But through that process, they'll start to give you some advice on what they think of your resume, what they think of your experience, and where you potentially need to improve, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. I mean, this is all great advice, right? Because you're getting this from someone who works in that industry that's constantly placing people in roles. So as hard as it may be sometimes to get that feedback, it can be invaluable as well. So they may look at your resume and say, look, you don't actually have a lot of fashion experience in this resume, so you need to kind of think about that. Or you need to brush up on your resume format. It's too long, too many pages, or it's too little pages, or there's not enough information, or it's difficult to read. They may even have a look at your LinkedIn profile, and again, it's really important that when you write a resume and when you write a LinkedIn profile that the two match, because if they don't match, you're going to leave people scratching their heads. So when people look to hire you for a role, as I said before, they get on LinkedIn, they look at your profile, they look at your resume, do the two match? Yes, they do. So don't be careful with LinkedIn that you don't overstate what you've done or overstate your title for that matter. And there's many people out there that have particular job titles that use their creative writing skills and basically make that title into something a little bit more senior than what it really is, or what it was actually, or what they were actually employed as. So they might have a role as a sales rep, but they call themselves an account director. The two are very, very different. And if I'm hiring for a sales rep, but someone sends me their resume and they say they're an account director, well, automatically I'm going to think they've had years and years of selling experience. And so I'm going to ask them questions that are related to an account director role versus a sales rep role. Now, it'll become very clear in about 5 minutes whether that person was telling the truth or not, just based on their experience. So recruitment agencies are really important because they obviously have a list of companies that they're working for. So if they like you and they think you're a good person, remember you don't have to have a lot of experience. These are just some of the basics that I'm telling you and talking you through today in how to set yourself up. But really the ultimate thing that people are looking for is passion, motivation. They want to know that you're a good person, a nice person, friendly, happy, positive, someone who's going to work hard, someone who's not kind of, oh yeah, I think I want to do fashion, but then 6 months later, oh no, I want to be in technology, and they keep chopping and changing and they've got no idea what they want to do. They can weed these types of people out very quickly, and these aren't the people they're looking for when they want to place roles. So get onto recruitment agencies, start reaching out to them, get in front of them, and talk through how you can find a role. Point number 4, ask the question. So when I was a young guy and I had a little bit of sales experience, I decided at the time I was working for a company selling mobile phones, in fact, door to door. So I was door knocking small business customers and basically selling them mobile phones. But I decided at the time that I wanted to work for a big corporate technology company in the CBD in a big skyscraper. Don't know why, probably because I was out in the suburbs and working in industrial estates, and so I kind of wanted that glitzy lifestyle of, working in the city and, wearing a suit and, drinking lattes, I guess. I guess that's what salespeople do, don't they? So I didn't actually know many people. And in fact, I didn't have a big network in that kind of enterprise side of sales. There actually weren't any jobs going at the time. And I think, to be honest, most of the jobs, if they were going, would have required more experience than I actually had. So being kind of the motivated and passionate person that I am and still am today, I got on the phone and I called up companies and I asked to speak to the sales manager. And they put me through, and I would say to the sales manager, look, my name's David, I really want to work for your company. This is who I am, this is the experience I have. I'm hugely passionate, I'm hugely motivated. Just give me 30 minutes of your time to prove to you that I'm the salesperson that you need to hire. Now, could you imagine what it's like getting a call from someone out of the blue, basically asking you for a job and telling you that they're highly motivated and highly passionate and they want to work really hard and they love your company and these are the reasons why? I mean, imagine getting a phone call like that. Wow, like if I got a phone call like that, I would just be blown away. In fact, I'd be like, when can you come in? Like, are you available today? I want to meet you before someone else hires you. And the reason for that is because most people don't have the courage to pick up the phone and call people and ask the question. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, you spend all this time, sending your resume out, applying for jobs online, not getting responses, or worse still, getting rejected because people don't know you. They don't really know who you are. All they see in front of them is a piece of paper that says this is who you are. And you spend all this time kind of trying to convince people who you are in a document, but really they don't know who you are. They only know who you are when they talk to you. So this is a great step. In fact, so I was actually invited in for an interview, and the guy who interviewed me put me through the ringer. Basically, he had me do a sales pitch on him. He basically quizzed me on every possible scenario, and in the end, I passed, and I had another interview with the general manager, and then I was given the role. And I ended up proving myself. In fact, in the first quarter, I achieved more sales than I think anyone had achieved in a long time, and was given an award at the time. And so that was really the launching place for my enterprise sales career. After that, I basically earned a reputation in that organisation as being a high seller. So asking the question, think about looking for a company that you want to work for, and ring the company and speak to the person that would be the person that you're likely to work for, and then try it. Ask the question. Okay, number 5, certifications. So whilst you've got time applying for roles, building your LinkedIn profile, researching what companies you want to work for, what industry you want to work for, building networks, talking to people, meeting people, during the downtime, instead of sitting there watching Netflix or playing computer games or perhaps spending way too much time in the gym perfecting your body, why not spend some time building your mind, perfecting your learning and your education? Now, I know for many of you watching this video, you've probably spent already many years studying at university, college, or you've just finished school, and perhaps the last thing you feel like doing is doing more education. Well, the bad news is you're going to have to. The good news is you've got time. And whilst you're waiting to land a role, use that time to build your knowledge, but build knowledge in a niche way. So, think about if there's a particular industry that you want to work for, then start to look at all the online courses that exist for that particular industry. So I'll use technology because it's what I know, it's what I do, and it's what I love. So Microsoft, Cisco, Amazon Web Services, as examples, all have certification courses. So you can go online to websites like Udemy, UDEMY, and no, they're not affiliated to my website, but they are a website that I have used in the past, and they've got some great learning tutorials. And so for $10, or as little as $10 or $15, you could basically do a 10-hour course, and at the end of that course receive a certificate. And so LinkedIn Learning is another great one. It's a big favorite of mine and very professional. And the great thing about LinkedIn Learning is that when you receive your certificate, they'll automatically upload that certification onto your LinkedIn profile. So when someone looks at your LinkedIn profile, they can see that you've done a lot of training and development in a particular area. So if you're looking to get into sales, obviously there's many courses you can do that around sales: presentation skills, negotiation skills, communication skills, how to sell, could be an obvious one. Or if you've got a pretty good idea how to sell because perhaps you've already worked in retail, but you don't have a lot of experience in a particular industry, then certainly go and do some courses in that industry. So certifications are really important. And the other advantage to having a certification, it's not just about portraying an image to the potential employer, but it's just about expanding your knowledge. And it really helps when you come for an interview or when you're networking. So remember, some of the biggest challenges that people have when they go to interviews is they just don't know how to answer the question. And I'm sure you've been in this situation before where someone asks you a question and you're kind of thinking, how do I answer this one? And you're kind of sitting there and you give an answer, and at the end of the interview, you knew you blew it, right? Well, when you're constantly immersing yourself in education around the industry and the job that you want, it's just kind of ingrained in your psychology and in your mind. So when you're sitting in front of someone and they ask you a question, you just go bang, and you know the answer because it's in there. You've been learning it. So this is the other advantage. Instead of you have time to build that learning, as opposed to applying for a job and then someone suddenly goes, oh yeah, come for an interview. Can you come in 3 days' time? And you're like, oh my God, like, what do I do? I better quickly learn about the industry. What's the role? I better learn about how to do that as well. Watch lots of videos and stress out and get all flustered, and then get to the interview and start panicking because you don't know what you're doing, what you're talking about. Sitting in the interview, feeling your cheeks going bright red, feeling like your face is on fire. Have you ever had that feeling? Surely I have. It's the worst. Someone asks you a question and you feel like your face is burning, glowing red. It's not great, right? So spend the time, get out there and get certified. Okay, this brings me to my last point, number 6, volunteer. So I know that I've given you a lot to do, and if you've worked through my video, you will find that there's an enormous amount of work. But it's all important, right? Because if you want to land a role, if you're sick of being rejected, if you're sick of no one responding to your job applications, then I know it looks like a lot of work, but trust me, it'll work and you will land a job, and hopefully you will comment on my channel and thank me for this advice today. So after everything that I've given you so far, if you've got more time, and hopefully you do, consider volunteering. So there are some types of jobs which they're really difficult to land because perhaps there's not a lot of the role. There may not be a lot of roles out there, right? Or it could be a role that people love or everyone wants to do, and so the people in those roles, they just never leave. And so this can be a problem as well because it doesn't matter how much networking you do or how much you prepare yourself. The reality is there's only so many of these roles available, and if one is not available, then you could be sitting around for some time, twiddling your thumbs. So, or just kind of end up doing something that you don't want to do. And I see this happen all the time. People go and study these science degrees or they do these MBAs and they graduate and they think, oh, this is great. I've spent years of perfecting myself and studying and then they go and apply for roles and they don't get one. And then they end up driving taxis or being an Uber driver or working in a pizza shop. I mean, how soul destroying is that? Anyway, so volunteering, the reason volunteering is a good idea is that companies, particularly after the pandemic and the global financial crisis, just don't have a lot of money. And so resources and people are the most expensive cost in any organisation. And so, if you were to ring a company and say, look, I'm really interested, and it could be, when you had the conversation, like I said before, with Ask the Question. If you ring someone and you say, look, I'm really interested, I want to work for your company, I love what you do, I really want to be a sales rep, let's say, and you buy them a coffee and they interview you or they have a conversation with you, they may say, look, you're awesome, like you really are amazing. Unfortunately, I just got nothing in my business right now. We are hamstrung with cost. We're trying to reduce costs. No one's leaving. No one wants to leave because everyone's petrified of what's happening out there. So look, I've got nothing for you, but if something does come up, you'll be the first person that I'll bring in. Well, that's great, but that doesn't really help you in landing a job right now. So you may then say, well, what happens if I was to volunteer? Work for free. Would you be interested? I don't care what it is. I'll do anything. Just give me an opportunity. I'm happy to work in the mailroom. I'm happy to be your assistant. Or just sit in the business and learn what people do in these roles. And I'll give up my time freely and I'll come in, when you want me to and just offer you services. Now, generally speaking, unless there's some HR policy or some workplace policy that says that, they don't accept volunteers because there's some sort of risk or liability or potential issue that could create, most of the time they'll probably say, okay, sure. And so typically volunteering, it probably works better in smaller businesses rather than big enterprises. So for example, Microsoft, if you said to someone from Microsoft, I want to volunteer, can I come in? They'd probably say, oh, look, yeah, I'll have to speak to, headquarters, and then they've got this kind of stringent recruitment policy and process and the big HR departments, and it just becomes challenging, right? But if you went to, say, a small business, in your area, someone with, maybe 5 employees or 10, 20 or 30, 50 employees, let's say, and then the owner of the organisation, well, of course, they're probably going to say, yeah, absolutely, I'd love for you to come in. And so the reason volunteering is such a great opportunity is that it gives you experience. Okay, you're not getting paid for it, but it's still experience. And it's experience that you can put on your resume. You can stick on your LinkedIn profile. You can say, I'm working for this company in this specific role. And then what it also does, it helps you to build out network. So when you're working for these companies volunteering, you get to know people. So when you're in the elevator or you're in the office, you can speak to everyone, introduce yourself, hi, my name's David. I'm a volunteer here, but I really want to get into sales. I really love what you guys do. You know, do you mind if I buy you a coffee and you can tell me what you do, and maybe you can give me some advice to help me land a role. And so people will really warm to you if you do this, and they really start to like you. And then, like as I said before, they have their own network, so they'll know people that are in the same industry or field that you're looking to get into, and they may say, look, you know what, I actually know someone who's looking for someone like you. Do you mind if I put you forward for this role? And so this is how the opportunities start to become available. And it's funny, you know, they may put you forward to someone that they know that's looking for, let's say, a sales rep. And that person, you know, they could be out there, they may have put a job application out onto a job seeker website. They may have a recruitment agency looking for them. But I'll tell you what, if their friend, their trusted business friend says, I've got this person over here who is just awesome, like they're volunteering for us at the moment, they're really nice, they're super passionate, motivated, they really want to get ahead in life, I really think you should interview this person. They will interview you over all the other candidates that they're looking at in the job seeker land. And I can almost guarantee you 95% of the time, if you smash the interview and if you follow all the tips that I've given you in this video, you will land the role. So if you find this video of value, please subscribe. I would obviously appreciate that. Leave a comment. If you've got any questions, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, drop me an email and I will get back to you when I can. Thanks.